Hello, I'm Billy Orgel,
And I'm Kevin Woods.
and we're Shelby County School Board members.
And this is Inside SCS.
Next up is Dr. Heidi Ramirez, the district's new Chief Academic Officer.
We were able to visit with her at Dr. William H. Brewster Elementary School to chat about her innovative ideas to increase academic achievement across the district.
Dr. Ramirez, thank you so much for being with us today at W.H. Brewster Elementary, the school you chose to do the interview today. And I'm here with my colleague, Kevin Woods, and we've got a few questions we want to ask you. And one, welcome you to Memphis.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here, both in the district and certainly here at Brewster this morning.
Well, we're definitely excited to have you here and to introduce you to the public for those who don't know you yet. And to start, what actually brought you here to Memphis? You had talent. I've seen your resume, a woman of great talent. Why Memphis?
Well, I have lived and worked, feels like sort of all over the country, and what was really interesting for me in the last year or two doing consulting work, to be in New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut with different state commissioners and folks who kept saying to me, what are they doing in Tennessee? And I thought that was a really interesting question, but it was certainly because of the progress the state has been making. To be the state making the greatest progress of any other in the country in terms of academic achievement on the national assessments, to be a leader on teacher effectiveness, and then to be in Shelby County, which has had one of the fastest sort of turnaround records in the country. So it's an exciting place for me to be part of a larger reform effort to make sure we help all children, but particularly our neediest kids, get a leg up and be more career and college ready.
Well, good deal. So, in essence, your title here in the district is Chief Academic Officer. So, for parents that are watching, exactly what all does that encompass?
Well, I think the easiest way to describe it is I'm in charge of most of setting the vision around the teaching and learning work for the district. And I have 3 assistant superintendents who report to me, one who's really focused on academics, including curriculum and instruction, exceptional children, optional schools, career and technical education. Another who really supports the work of our principals, including coaching them and helping make sure our schools are running smoothly. And the third is really academic operations. What is all the work we can do behind the scenes so that other folks can focus on the work of teaching and learning?
So, Dr. Ramirez, the superintendent's vision is to improve literacy throughout the district. And we've come up with an ambitious 80, 90, 100 plan. Is part of your goal to implement that over the years and to get everybody in line, our assistant superintendents, our principals, assistant principals, teachers, even our librarians, our wonderful librarian here at Brewster, Miss Harrison.
Yeah, you've got it. I don't need to say anything else. No, I think the superintendent and the board, as you know, has really dug in on the 80, 90, 100 goals. And I'd say the vision is actually broader than literacy. It is about what we're calling Destination 2025. Where do we need to be by 2025 to ensure all of our kids are career and college ready? Literacy is a big piece of that. And so we have been working on a comprehensive literacy improvement plan that would sort of be the first action plan in response to 2025 or Destination 2025 that really sort of says what are we going to do across the entire system, pre-K to 12, and not just reading teachers. I think oftentimes we think literacy, we think, okay, that's something that happens in pre-K, maybe second grade, maybe third grade. But the reality is literacy and reading in particular is developmental. What it means to be a fluent reader at second grade is really different than what it means to be a fluent reader at high school and when you're in a physics class. And so working on how do we continue to develop that skill across our students throughout their life, and how do we engage the entire school community or district community in that work.
So I looked up, we're at Brewster Elementary, you chose that. I looked up, we've got a picture in the room, maybe we'll show it later, of Dr. Brewster, who was a pastor and minister, and he was also a composer. And I think our librarian and Miss Askey, our principal, could probably tell you this, but one of his hit songs, and I think it sold 1 million records, was Lord, I've Tried. So, which is so appropriate, I guess, for the work that you do, that you did in Milwaukee. I think you mentioned you've done consulting. But do we have a chance here? Because our kids need so much help. And do we have a chance to get it right? Do you think we've got the data? Do you think we've got the people in place? Do you think we can get it right by 2025? This next generation, our pre-K children, our kindergarten children, as they move towards post-secondary education?
Well, we started the conversation by asking, why did I come to Memphis? Let me say this. I'm a vegetarian who's never lived in the South. I would not have come here if I didn't believe not only we have a chance that we're absolutely going to make this happen.
Gotcha.
Well, that's fantastic because every day matters. And you look at the kids walking down the hall, and like I said, hopefully we'll get a chance to see the kids here at Brewster, and knowing that we control we have a great influence on whether or not they're successful or not. So having a strong chief academic officer is very instrumental in that. One of the things you mentioned, you were mentioned in an article, and you stated you look forward to creating a set of conditions that allows our educators and our school leaders to do their job effectively. What are those conditions? Can you elaborate on that? What does that actually mean?
Well, first, I think it's important that so often when we talk about educational improvement, we zero right in on the classroom as though it's the classroom or the teacher's problem to solve. And I think what we're trying to say here is the most important work we do is certainly in the classroom, but there's a lot of other work that happens around the district and the school to allow the effective work to happen in classrooms. So what are some of the enabling conditions? I am amazed to be in our buildings and see how much time our folks are spending creating their own assessments, creating new ways of looking at the data that come from either our standardized assessments or their own tools, the amount of time spent analyzing data, et cetera. Now, I want us to be looking at data to be much more informed for how we work with our students. But the amount of time folks are doing that suggests to me, as a central office, we're not carrying our fair share there. We have to look more carefully at the quality of the assessments we have, how many they are, and are they taking away time and sort of energy from good teaching and learning work? Do the assessments provide good data to actually inform practice or get in the way of or misguide us in practice? Are we providing enough data in clear, tight ways, sort of a good dashboard, right? So each of us has a car that lights up and tells us when the gas is low or the battery is low or whatever it is. Right now, we don't really have good dashboards for our folks. So instead, we have giant reams of data. And so you're not really sure what the problem is. No light is going off where it needs to.
One of the things you mentioned, which I was glad to hear you say, is that you talked about that continuum, that pre-K, that K1 and 2. You know, often we focus on the tested subjects. And back to what Mr. Orgel indicated, if we're only focusing on the tested subject, what happens? Well, principals will tell us that I have to put my best teachers in the tested subjects. And what happens? You create gaps. If you're not testing in first grade, then you're not as concerned as making sure that your best teachers are in that grade, and that's what. So what happens is you create a gap there, right? So it's that which we don't talk about, which is we have to make sure we have the best teachers at every grade, regardless if we're testing there or not. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely, and in fact, in some cases, I'd say. You said regardless of their teaching or the testing grade or not. I think it's particularly when they're not a testing grade in some cases, because we know the foundation that's built pre-K to 3 is so significant in terms of lifelong success. So whether or not they're tested really matters.
Are you a Spanish speaker, fluent?
Well, my father is a Costa Rican immigrant, and so he certainly was exposed to Spanish as both sort of being with him part of the time, but also his family. So I admit, mostly I can pray in Spanish and be a good daughter, a good Latina daughter, and so you know more language about being in the kitchen than you do about politics. But I consider myself proficient enough to get by, but often what I explain to our parents is, yo tengo la lengua de una gringa. I have the tongue of a gringa.
But so, and you went to college, I didn't know you went to the university, but you went to Stanford and you went to Harvard as well, is
See,
that
folks
correct?
always focus on Stanford and Harvard.
But I asked where you went to the university.
I am an Orange woman, Syracuse University.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
Okay, so
yes.
Syracuse
That's why he
Orange.
wore the orange tie.
I thought so, yes.
I'm going to take credit for knowing that, but I didn't. It was not in my notes. I just picked up the
Yes.
master's and the PhD.
Yes.
Well, in addition to your great education, I know just a second ago you guys talked a little bit about your heritage, and coming to Memphis, at the school, even here at Brewster, where 23% of the population is Latino or Hispanic, and you talk about some of the schools you visit, and where many of our population is African American, Hispanic population. What is it like going into a school when you see the Latino population, and like you said, they speak Spanish most of the time that they're home, and then they come to school and it's English all day, and then they see someone like you who there's a little connection, and you can say something in Spanish, and maybe you get a smile. I was just wondering what that's like for you.
Oh, it's both exciting for me and a little disappointing, I'll be honest. And whether it's being in a school building or the other night, you had a very strong turnout from some of our Latino parents who came to the board the other evening, many of whom were not native English speakers. And we were, in fact, talking about them and the great work at their school, and most of those parents couldn't understand what was happening. And so very excited and proud when I can be part of that community, and proud to see the community represented, disappointed, and it's something I think for us to grow on as a district, that we're not more responsive yet to the needs of this and several of our immigrant communities. And so, to be honest, to have been, walking through Egypt Elementary School and be able to sort of put a hand on a child and to tell them what a good job they're doing and how proud I am of them, and to be able to use the word orgullo for pride and see kids kind of sit up. And that makes me proud, and it also makes me sad in that I know for a lot of our children, they haven't heard a familiar voice or a familiar word from 7 o'clock in the morning till 3:30 in the afternoon. And so I want to make sure that, it doesn't mean we all have to be bilingual, but I think we do need to work on being much more sensitive to that experience for our children. And that's true whether they're Spanish speakers or our Liberian children. This is a challenge for us.
So we couldn't be happier to have you here.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to share with, that we haven't asked yet? You just want to make sure that the folks here in Memphis and surrounding areas know about Dr. Ramirez.
Oh, I don't know about they need to know anything more about me, but I do think we have some exciting work going on in the district. And as we continue to sort of roll out this work around a comprehensive literacy plan, I would love for us to be working more with the community and figuring out what's the role for the various community-based organizations, the library system, nonprofits, folks who work with parents and families, volunteer tutors. How do we actually bring all of that support together to better support our students and this vision around Destination 2025?
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And good luck in your work going forward.
Thank you.
We want to also thank Dr. Askew and her staff for hosting us at Brewster Elementary. Thank you.